You might not have realized it yet, but the Master of Masters is a classic Final Fantasy main antagonist. But unlike some Final Fantasy games, I think Kingdom Hearts is handling him perfectly. Look deep inside your heart. What makes you find villains compelling? What makes you say, boom, that's my favorite villain of all time? There's been a trend recently that some people have pushed back against, the trend of making villains misunderstood bad guys. But I'd say that's actually exactly what makes a villain compelling to me. Sure, it can be entertaining to watch someone who wants to destroy the world, cause chaos, be evil. But it's so much more interesting when you've gotten to know that character, when you understand why they're doing it. You probably don't morally agree with them, but in the moment you just kind of think, yeah, maybe they were onto something. That's what makes you root for them. With the Master wanting to destroy darkness, it's really going to be interesting how they're going to pin up Sora against him, against someone who's all for the light. For those who've watched my True Saga, you might hear some familiar topics during this video, but this time we aren't really doing any theorizing, just using the facts from the games. I recently did a poll asking who's your favorite antagonist, and an overwhelming majority chose Xemnas, and I respect that. I think that the story of him wanting to have a heart is very compelling. His fear of worrying that having a heart is just pain, but then finally being given the chance to feel is incredible. And I love that it ties back into the first time he's ever interacted with darkness. Or maybe you just like seeing him aura farm. But my favorite main antagonist in KH, and actually not just Kingdom Hearts, but my favorite main antagonist or villain in all of media is the Master of Masters. Now, some of you might say, KHTomorrow, why are you saying he's your favorite antagonist? We don't even know if he'll be a villain. Well, I'd say he was already a huge antagonist within the series. He was in charge of the events leading up to the Keyblade War. He was the driving force of the dispute between the foretellers. Then, although not present aside from flashbacks, he continued being the reason for every awful thing happening during Union Cross. Strelitzia's death was a result of the Master choosing Ventus as Darkness's vessel. Darkness confronting the Dandelions also seems something to be predetermined by him. In more ways than one, he's already a bigger antagonist than any other character. Although there is a counterpoint to be made, because he hasn't been antagonistic towards the main character Sora just yet. And if he did in fact want the Destiny Trio to rewrite the events of Darkness prevailing, wouldn't that make him a hero, not a villain? With the Master, in some cases the lines can definitely be blurred. But this poses a philosophical question. Would stopping darkness from prevailing justify hundreds of years of manipulation? I'm sure you can see the Versus 13 parallels. While we don't know for sure, we can probably surmise that without the Master's involvement, darkness would have prevailed. And even if that's not the case, the Master's had such a direct impact on history that we can't confidently say that any of these characters would have even been born if it wasn't for the Master. Since most of them are Keyblade wielders, a lot of them are likely descendants of the Dandelions. And since the Dandelions only exist because they were formed as an order from the Master, he played a direct role in creating their bloodlines. Keeping that in mind, and that he foresaw everything that was going to happen, wouldn't that make him a god? What constitutes being a god? What would you imagine if someone plucked you from your world and brought you to meet the person who's responsible for the creation of your entire bloodline and everyone you know? The one responsible for everything you've learned throughout history? What kind of figure would you see? What would surround them? One typical answer could be a man with a loud booming voice, maybe someone sitting on a throne, maybe you'd think of a mesmerizing scene in the final world with clouds. Perhaps you'd think of a religious figure. But you're probably not thinking of someone aura farming and acting like this.
Wait, do you want me to go? I was just kidding. Lighten up, I was just kidding. I didn't forget.
Here's a huge promotion. Good job.
Way to steal my thunder, show off. Your jaw should have hit the floor at my sheer genius. Oh, you think that's gross, do ya?
Although the Master would break the traditional norms of what a godly figure should look like, if he is the writer of the Book of Prophecies, he is everyone's creator. He created this reality for himself. Everything in Kingdom Hearts happened as a result of him. Xehanort only stands here during his final moments confronting Sora as a result of many years ago standing in the same position listening to the manipulations of another man. Remind shows us the scene of Xehanort returning to the Master after his trip around the world. And while I blamed Ansem for being the initial catalyst to send him down his dark road, and then I blamed the player for taking Xehanort away from Scala in the first place, and ultimately theorized about that being Brain's plan, The reality is that all of these things could be true, but I don't think any of those events set him down his dark road more than this conversation with the Master. I might break down all the manipulations in detail in a future video, but I'm sure you already know that during this dark road scene, he's doing everything he can to create a certain worldview that Xehanort would follow, leading him down the dark road. Then, after Xehanort comes back, the Master sees his manipulation working, and he knows that giving Xehanort false hope that he'll do great things in the future might be a pretty lousy move, but he glazes him anyway and tells him,
So? You can make a change. You have that power. What do you want for the world? Power, eh?
That line, combined with thinking he's the child of destiny, is something he truly believes all the way until his final confrontation with Sora.
The world needs someone to stand up and lead.
He changed his entire mindset and worldview to the one Destiny had in store for him. The one he had in store for him. It kind of reminds me of Darth Vader being the main antagonist, and then we find out that Palpatine was pulling his strings. If you can't already tell, Xehanort by far is my second favorite antagonist. Honestly, maybe even my second favorite character. I love tragic characters. What's interesting is that after I beat Kingdom Hearts 3 and Remind, I had absolutely no idea who the next main antagonist could be. I suppose my best guess would be Azora. But then Union Cross's final chapters revealed the Master of Masters' plan, and it felt like we were finally beginning to understand where the next chapter of KH was headed. It was headed towards defeating Darkness. Alright, cool, so we'll team up with the Master and defeat Darkness. Right? When KH4 was revealed, it told us that this is the Lost Masters arc. Although the Nintendo Direct has me a little worried because they use the same exact font and layer style to write KH4 instead. So are they not doing the whole arc anymore? Is it just going to be KH4? But let's ignore that for now. Anyway, like I said, the next saga is the Lost Masters arc, referring to the Lost Master himself. But if you're still not convinced, I'll refer you to this 2022 Game Informer interview. Nomura highlights that we're going to be delving into a new enemy figure for the continuation of the story. This new enemy has a lot to do with the masked characters that appear at the end of KH3, which we can figure out that he's referring to their leader. So now that we understand why he's already been an antagonist and that he will be the next main antagonist, let's talk about why I prefer the Master of Masters over any other antagonistic force in all of media. For starters, my favorite kinds of villains are masterminds, those who are always 2 steps ahead.
I am always 2 steps ahead.
Though that doesn't mean every villain who's supposedly a couple steps ahead is automatically interesting to me. There's one thing to actually be 10 steps ahead and another to simply claim to be. And I don't mean the villain lying to be multiple steps ahead, but the given media telling us that they already have everything figured out without actually revealing it to the audience in a meaningful way. I think it's much more interesting for the audience to figure it out for themselves instead of being told something like,
No, it cannot be.
With Xehanort, it's true that he also manipulated people, but even if Terra did fall for it, the audience certainly didn't. But with the Master, like I said, there's people who still have no idea that the Master is a bad guy. With Xehanort, you can take one look at this guy and you can tell that they purposefully made him look evil. I think it's a bit of a problem in long-running series to introduce characters who have everything figured out and say that they've been planning things from the start. The audience has to feel that revelation. I think that every good twist, the answer to a mystery, should always be staring right in your face without you realizing it. After the reveal, you should be able to look back upon previous games and be like, the answers were there all along. Just like how the Book of Prophecies has already been revealed to be in the box, and yet a lot of us are still questioning what's inside. When they do reveal that it's the Book of Prophecies and people replay KH3 or read Xigbar's character file, the answer will be staring them right back in the face. Or maybe it's not the book, who knows. In the intro, I said that the Master of Masters is a classic Final Fantasy main antagonist, but what does that mean exactly? Well, some Final Fantasy games have twist final villains, where they don't necessarily play a huge role in the story up until the final act. It's only near the end do the characters and you, the player, realize that they've been pulling the strings all along. And for those who don't know what I'm referring to, the same could actually be said about Ansem in KH1. Sure, we see glimpses of him on Destiny Islands, then Hollow Bastion, but he kinda just lurks around in the background waiting for his time to shine, waiting for the pieces to line up. As I'll soon go over, with the Master of Masters, I think it's handled even better. I played Final Fantasy XIII earlier this year for the sole purpose of seeing the parallels that the game had to Versus 13 and what ideas eventually made their way into the Kingdom Hearts series. And while I enjoyed the combat and story overall, I never really resonated with the stakes. The plot is basically the same as back cover. Early on in the game, the main characters learn that they've been given a focus, essentially meaning a role. They figure out that they have to be the ones to cause Ragnarok, an event that would kill the entire civilization of Cocoon, similar to how the Keyblade War is essentially Ragnarok. And how do the characters learn that their thoughts, their feelings, actions are the key to the future? Do they introduce multiple perspectives for the audience to question who's right and who isn't? Nope, it's just a character yapping exposition to us. The audience, or the characters, don't have to figure anything out. And that's one of the major flaws that I see in the game. I felt like I wasn't really given any blanks to fill, like I was just being fed the lore. With KH and the Master of Masters, I think you can tell that it's only because of the mystery surrounding him that I've made so many videos about him. All of those videos have a focus about figuring out what the Master of Masters' true intentions and backstory are. We'll return to FF13 and I'll issue a spoiler warning in a few minutes, but I was curious about the psychological and neurological effects that mysteries have on us. I think Kingdom Hearts has the most amount of real mysteries out of anything that I've seen before. The only other similar media that I've seen is Severance, which is a great show by the way, I highly recommend it. Not to go too deep into it, but I found this interesting article written by someone who's a psychological educator and best-selling author. It states, one of the biggest psychological engines behind the appeal of mysteries is something called the information gap. The uncomfortable feeling that appears the moment we realize there's something we don't know, but want to know. Curiosity is like a form of cognitive deprivation that pushes us to close the gap between what we know and what we want to know. He then goes on to say mysteries almost always start with the outcome rather than the cause. With the Master, we know he formed the Foretellers, he has a book that dictates the future, he forced children in a battle to kill each other, but we didn't know why he did any of that. Then through content updates in Union Cross, we were drip-fed hints for his backstory. We learned that he lost many comrades, that he's been fighting with darkness for a long time. Then we learned that his ultimate plan is to defeat darkness. We keep learning more and more, but there's still that information gap as to why he's doing all of this. And that's why although we aren't given the answers directly, through piecing his scenes together, we can get somewhat of a picture as to why he is doing all of this. To go back to the article, one of the clearest insights comes from fMRI studies looking at what happens during an aha moment. This area releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to motivation and pleasure, and that release creates the brief rush people feel when everything suddenly clicks. When you piece together the mystery yourself, it's like you solved the mystery, but the answers were already there, you just had to see it for it to become real. During the next saga of Kingdom Hearts, I'm sure there will be a huge aha moment, similar to the Lucia reveal, where we'll finally learn the whole truth. And I can only sit here talking about these things because of all the breadcrumbs that Nomura scattered. Anyways, returning back to FF13, you can skip to this timestamp to avoid spoilers. Through an exposition dump, we learn that the Primarch, the ruler of Cocoon, is actually someone who's been disguising himself as a human. His true name is Barthangelus, and to me, I felt like I wasn't really given a reason to care. We weren't introduced to him as a respectable and friendly ruler, only to be given a huge reveal that he isn't. I just kind of felt like I was introduced to both things at the same time. To me, he was always just an evil looking dude. You see, the way you convey information is honestly as important as the reveal itself. Through another exposition dump of the characters just kinda standing around, we learn that long ago, the Maker departed this world, and Bartholomew's goal is to summon back the Maker, the creator of everything. We learn that he's had everything planned out for many years, and all the main characters are just his pawns. As you might already tell, having characters be puppets to a mastermind's genius plan has to be one of my favorite tropes ever. In back cover, we weren't aware that the Master was manipulating all the Foretellers to fight in a war. We're shown all of the events through the perspectives of the Foretellers, of the victims. We are the victims of the Master's manipulations, and I definitely think we would have continued being the victims of his plans during Missing Link. But anyway, back to FF13, I really didn't like the characters just standing around being fed the lore. But okay fine, maybe it wasn't about the journey, maybe it was about the destination. After Barthandelus merges with Orphan, it's this grand entrance, a plan hundreds of years in the making. I can't wait to see all the things he has planned with the Maker. And we just beat him. The end. In Kingdom Hearts, the Master of Masters doesn't become the twist villain of KH3 and then die 2 seconds later. In fact, the main character of the franchise still hasn't even gotten to the twist that someone's orchestrated all the events. There's currently 2 types of people within the fanbase: the people who've seen everything in Union Cross and Dark Road, and those who haven't. This creates a divide within the fanbase. There's people who say you need to play Union Cross, it has vital lore for KH4. Does it though? I'm sure it'll improve your experience for KH4, but knowing the Master's plan is just giving you dramatic irony. You'll have insights into the Master's character and everything involving the Book of Prophecies, but for those who don't know any of the key saga lore or left in the dark, just like Sora, which I think is narratively very interesting, because they'll obviously have to reintroduce the Master of Masters and not expect you to know everything about him. Part of the fanbase will go into the game expecting him to become the villain, while some casual fans won't have any idea that he'll be the next villain. I don't really watch a lot of long-running media, but in each long-running narrative, they always try having the next main antagonist be more threatening than the last. This is called power creep. I'll be discussing spoilers for Loki Season 1, so skip to this timestamp to avoid spoilers. For those who've read the Missing Link datamine script, you might know how similar a lot of the concepts of the TVA would have been to the Missing Link societies. And it's not that Missing Link was going to copy from the Loki show, but it's a crazy coincidence, but the first episode actually premiered on the same day as Union Cross's English finale released. You know, the same finale teasing Sigurd and Missing Link. But anyway, when the show did release, we didn't even know that Missing Link would have been a game, so the only parallel that I did recognize was during the season finale. Tell me who this reminds you of.
Not what you were expecting,
You're just a man.
Don't tell me I'm a disappointment.
No. Just a little bit easier to kill.
Don't listen to him.
Don't listen to him.
And just who are you?
I've been dubbed many names by many people. A ruler, a conqueror. It's not as simple as a name. Not every version of me was so pure of heart. No. No. Ages and ages of cosmic harmony, hence. You're welcome.
From his nonchalant dialogue to his chaotic energy to them literally having the same method of control.
I already know what's going to happen. See? I know it all, and I've seen it all. All the scheming.
No, we broke out of your little game. That's how we got here.
No, wrong. Every step you took to get here, I paved the road. You just walked down it. No, you can't get to the end until you've been changed by the journey. This stuff, it needs to happen.
So it's all a game. It's all a manipulation.
But here's the difference. This Disney Plus show is trying to make the audience believe that everything they've watched for the last 13 years has all been predetermined by this one dude. From a filmmaking perspective, like, no, they didn't make every single Marvel movie just to pave the way for Kang. Directors come and go, and the concept of Kang being the next main antagonist likely didn't even exist when Thanos was the villain. Much less that the production of the previous projects knew that this big twist was coming. And sure, to be fair, they did set up the potential of a Loki show, but the audience didn't get a single hint about someone essentially having a Book of Prophecies. But for Kingdom Hearts, everything is made under Nomura's vision. Every subsequent game after Union Cross was just paving the road for the Master of Masters. And as of 2026, the Master's plan has been in the works for 13 real-life years. 13 years ago, obviously, they didn't tell us that he'd be the one replacing Xehanort as the next main antagonist, but that must have been the goal since the mid-2010s. His ambitions have been marinating in every project since then. Since the Kang dynasty is no longer happening, we won't know where Marvel was going to take the character. Maybe this version of Kang was going to return, but now we'll forever just be left wondering what other parallels he could have had with the Master. It's kind of funny that Missing Link also got cancelled, and for all we know, the Master of Masters could have played a major role in that game. After the Master disappears, maybe he only returns as a result of someone summoning him back during Missing Link. He's not just a twist villain who comes back and instantly dies, but his chapter is yet to come. Now, just so we're clear, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy XIII, I just think that some things could have been done better, and Nomura's second chance is with Kingdom Hearts. I'm making this video before D23, so I hope we get a new trailer, game announcement, or just KH and Fortnite. And if you are getting anything from the KH collab, I hope you can use my supporter creator code KINGDOMHEARTS, no spaces. I get a small portion of revenue for any purchase you make on Fortnite or Epic Games in general. Lastly, a huge thank you to all my channel members and patrons. Our Keyblade Masters are Diafate, 616E6F6E, Zolcards, Mew Mew Power Girl, Nichtledo, Sean, and Darcy. Thank you everyone for watching, I hope we got something good at D23.